You hear that? You want to know what that is? The deafening silence of the lack of Cage 4 news. Thank you to our $5 patrons Redwolf4765, Midnight Gemlord, and Sean. Thank you to our $3 members Recliner Plays and Redwolf4765, and a very big thank you to our $25 patron Alex Ice Rose. Before we open this breakdown / discussion on how Cage 4 has kind of just been in the void. In the void for the past year, please leave your own thoughts on Cage 4 in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Only hit that little notification to miss out on any video section of the channel. Also, I do a page down below. Each episode as one. You got one dominant. This is videos, early content, and more. As now become a member of the channel for as 3 hours a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the discussion. What's up, guys? All Hunter here, and yeah, Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced and had its teaser trailer released a year ago today. It was released on April 10th of 2022. That's when Cage 4 was announced, and we were told that there was magic in the making. Now, an entire year later, we have nothing. Not a hint, not a word, not a taste of it. Kingdom Hearts very recently became 21 years old, and even then, at a major concert being held for its 21st birthday, I do believe, not a single hint about Cage 4. In fact, realistically, that single hint that was kind of general KH stuff wasn't even told to us. It was just Nomura coming up on stage and telling Yoko Shimomura, the goddess that she is, that yeah, I'll tell you what I need to talk about backstage, and then we never heard. And like, to be fair, do not get me wrong, I may just be thirsty. Like, Kingdom Hearts 3 came out 3 years ago. I'm lying, 4 years ago. And I will be completely honest with you. 100% transparency. I have not cared about a single piece of mobile game content that has come out since. Can I respect the mobile game content? Absolutely. I've seen multiple people say Dark Road was a fantastic story, and I respect that. I even think it's a pretty good story from what I've seen of it. And I like the way it utilizes the Disney worlds and stuff like that. And, you know, Missing Link, it seems interesting enough, but don't really care about that either. And we've been getting a little bit more information about that. I know they just recently had a closed beta for it in Japan, I do believe. And what else? Kingdom Hearts Shooting Cross wrapped up. I mean, that's neat too. But as interesting as all this background lore is, I don't care. I don't care about any of that stuff. I want my Kingdom Hearts 4. And like, I know that's blasphemy to say as a Kingdom Hearts fan. Like, hey, aren't you the guy who grew up with the series? Aren't you the guy who knows that this series has been spread across like 15 different consoles and 17 different years for the most part, and then finally all got recently slammed together into one mostly playable experience? And even then, it's not even a fully playable experience, and there's no way to actually properly experience the whole story on one console and one succinct experience. Yes, I do. I do acknowledge that. And I know I should probably care more about the mobile game stuff, but I don't know. It's just, there's a mental disconnect for me. I just never got interested. And there are multiple reasons to that. One is admittedly the art style. Like, don't get me wrong. I love the designs, and I love seeing young Xehanort, young Ericus, all their different classmates who were destined to go. Like, I love seeing all that. I love the darker tones of those stories. It's just, I just can't take it seriously. I can't take it seriously, and it's just that kind of game was never necessarily interesting to me. I love Kingdom Hearts 4's story. There's a reason I cried multiple times during Kingdom Hearts 3. There's a reason it got me on numerous occasions. But even still, a big reason why I love Kingdom Hearts is the gameplay. And Union Cross / Dark Road / Missing Link gameplay just doesn't look like it's going to be it for me. So my main itch, the itch I'm looking to scratch, is coming from KH4. The live action RPG, and we've got nothing on it in a year. Now, is this entirely unusual? No. Need I remind you that Kingdom Hearts 3 was announced in 2013. Kingdom Hearts 3 did not release for 6 years. And admittedly, there were complications behind that, but yeah, it isn't entirely foreign to me, the idea that Nomura would announce something way too early and proceed to let it fester within the minds of his fans for over half a decade. It's not a new feeling to me. However, if there is one thing that has me a little bit worried about this and a little bit confused. It's that I don't think the extenuating circumstances that affected Kingdom Hearts 3's development exist now, or at least to the same degree that this game would have like a 5-year turnaround time from its teaser trailer, or a 6-year turnaround time. At most, I was expecting 3. But even still, to announce it in 2022 and then sit on it for a year with nothing of any sort of substance even related to the game, and then drop it 2 years after that feels a little bit sussy. But you know, the major things that held back KH3's development were numerous, like almost incalculable. The biggest one was obviously Final Fantasy Versus 13, which had to turn into Final Fantasy 15. And Nomura's baby literally perished before his very eyes, and he was split between that and Final Fantasy VII Remake. Bro was extremely busy at the time. Thusly, I understand Kingdom Hearts sort of falling to the wayside, especially considering that he himself in numerous interviews admitted that he didn't even know how to write Kingdom Hearts 3, or the endings or revivals for certain characters. In fact, he even admitted in an interview that he wasn't planning to bring everybody back. It was the fans who convinced him to do that. So, is it entirely likely that Nomura just has no idea what he's going to do for Kingdom Hearts 4, and he kind of just dropped it because he was like, oh, well, it's been 3 years. Might as well drop it. Remember, the gap between Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance and the announcement of KH3, which was supposed to be the immediate follow-up to Dream Drop Distance as established within that game, was 1 year. 1 year between the release of DDD and the announcement of KH3. It took us 3 years to get the announcement of KH4 after the release of KH3. So there are already some strange time gaps going on. But with that strange time gap, I would assume that Nomura would have been at least a little bit more prepared, right? Because, like, you got to think about it. Not only was Nomura torn between, like, 3 different projects, one of those projects being canceled, another one of those projects being extremely complicated in KH3, one that he admitted he didn't know how to write, and another project being a Final Fantasy VII Remake that they had to build from the ground up because he had to rewrite the story and split it into multiple parts. Bro's in a very complicated position, but now things are a lot simpler. For one, now he can actually treat KH4 as a passion project in comparison to KH3, which he admits was more of an obligation than something he actually wanted to do. And with the ability to kind of just shove his Noctis, not Noctis, from Final Fantasy Versus 13 in through Yozora, he's getting the actual passion project that he wanted. And also, he isn't going to switch engines halfway through this time. Another major reason KH3 was stalled in development was so long was because they tried to use the Kingdom shader, only for the engine to suddenly like burn and crash and die, and suddenly they needed to switch over to the new engine, which was the Unreal Engine 4. So they essentially had to restart everything. I'm not even sure if any assets were transferred over from the original KH shader into the Unreal Engine 4 version of KH3. But now, they have the new Unreal Engine. They are working with that from the start. They had 3 years of extra development time. Nomura does and should be able to treat this as a passion project. This is the start of a new arc, meaning it doesn't have to be overly complicated. So, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Notably, I'm not saying that Nomura's schedule is suddenly freed up so he can exclusively work on Kingdom Hearts 4. Obviously, Kingdom Hearts as a collaboration project is probably very complicated to work on in the first place. He likely has to get the rights and stuff like that and communicate with Disney on which properties he wants to use, especially if he is expanding out to other properties like the massively theorized Star Wars going to be in KH4. I'm assuming that is not an easy process. He's not just going through Disney to use a Disney property. He's going through Disney to reach not Lucasfilm. I don't think Lucasfilm is directly tied. I don't think they own Star Wars anymore. But he's going through Disney to go to a subsidiary of Disney, which is not a major part of Disney or its original animation studios. Plus, he's going to have to go through Pixar, which is also a subsidiary of Disney now. Like, the complications of organizing all this and getting the rights to all that to be allowed to use it, even though it's technically all under Disney's fold, is likely super duper complicated. And obviously, considering the scale, size, and quality of what KH4 is likely going to have to be after what happened with KH3, it's highly unlikely he can have a quick turnaround on this like he did in the past with things like KH1 to KH2. Or KH1 to Chain of Memories and stuff like that. Like, the quick turnaround is not necessarily to be expected here. Though, admittedly, remember the gap between KH1 and KH2, it was 3 years. 4 years for people in the US. It took us 4 years. Well, no, it took us 3 years to even get a teaser announcement for KH4. And I would presume that KH4 was at least in the early stages of development well before KH3 even came out. Like, presumably, Nomura finished up the story at least a year in advance to KH3's release, so he could have started working on KH4 relatively quickly. And don't get me wrong, I know there are still other projects that Nomura has to work on. I'm not sure if he's conscripted for the new Final Fantasy that's coming out, or has come out. I'm really not the biggest Final Fantasy fan, just not my thing. But I know he is still technically working on the remake, so that's something that's taking his time and attention. But for KH4, I mean, he should have more time, more attention. The situation shouldn't be as complicated. The turnaround shouldn't be this long. Like, think about it. If it does come out in another 2 years, it's the same wait. It's the same wait between major installments that we got from Dream Drop to 3. Because it's already been 4 years since KH3 came out, which is, I know, it's so strange to think about. Like, I'm not sure about y'all, but KH3 was like a myth to me. Like, for someone who got into the franchise, not as early as I could have. I was admittedly not around since 2002, but I was around since, like, 2008, just about. That's when I first found out about A Kingdom of Hearts. So, Kingdom Hearts 3 was like a whole myth. I had 2 sitting on my console for a whole decade before the game that would follow up to in terms of numbers came out. A little more than a decade considering 2008 to 2019. But with that being the case, like, the mythology behind 3 will never happen again. And I hope that Nomura doesn't even delude himself into thinking that's going to be the case. Like, there's nothing that could ever reach the levels of a KH3 in terms of hype building, anticipation, the narrative, the myth. Like, admittedly, while the waiting period was one of the most, I don't want to say stressful, but one of the most annoying periods of my life, just scrounging every day. Like, trust me, you guys were not there, unfortunately. I was not a YouTuber at the time, but trust me, like, every other day, if not every day, KH3 was consistently in my search bar. I bet if you were to go through my search history, it'd just be KH3 news, KH3 news, KH3 news from a whole chunk of my life. That's never going to happen again. And even with like a hypothetical KH6, hopefully it doesn't take a 6-year gap. With that being the case, that's the thing. We'll be 6 years out if it doesn't release in the next 2 years. 6 years out from KH3. That mythos is so strange. And notably, the big thing about KH4 that has to be confused on a hypothetical wait or a girthy pause between its release date is also for the fact that we have nothing. Like, with KH3, we had Dream Drop. We had Birth by Sleep. We had KH2. We had knowledge of essentially what was going to be generally happening within KH3 for the most part. So we had things we could hype build. We had things we could speculate on. There were theories left, right. Who's going to battle who? What's the final battle going to look like? Who's going to have the Keyblade? Is it going to be young Xehanort or old Xehanort? What's happening? We have things to worry about. But, like, I don't know if you've noticed in the general community, but, like, theories about Kingdom Hearts have pretty much dropped off a cliff. If anything, it's more so just explanations or thoughts on previous installments of the series. Like, that's just how it is now. You want to know why? Because no one knows what's going to happen in KH4. KH4 is essentially the KH1 of the new era. Sure, we have knowledge of general stuff, like, oh, the Master of Masters is going to be important, the Foretellers are going to be important, and Sora is going to be important. There ain't much to speculate about that. There's no, like, pitting up people against, like, I'm not sure about y'all, but I've seen a lot of, like, rewrites happening within the KH community. There are multiple, some of which I can't remember the YouTubers' names, but I want to shout out because they're doing fantastic. But that's the thing, we're rewriting stuff, we're explaining stuff, we're theorizing on old things. Like, there's nothing new to grasp on because KH4 is such an enigma in terms of what it's going to be. Like, I know many people, many YouTubers who built their entire channel around KH3 and the mythos and the information behind it. But this drought of information we have is sort of making me wonder, like, I don't know, what's the point? Like, notably, I am not a game designer. I will never be a game designer. I am not Tetsuya Nomura. I will never be Tetsuya Nomura. That man has had such a drastic impact on my life, my mentality, how I react to certain stimulus. Like, you know, for fun fact, if you ever do see me in person and you want to get me to randomly, spontaneously start crying, play Dearly Beloved. Almost any variation of it. The only ones that like won't get me are like the Melody of Memory one, because I don't have much association with that one. But play Dearly Beloved, and I will it's like an automatic tear-jerking response. That doesn't just happen. Like, most people will not immediately start crying if they hear that song, but I am one of the few. If you play Dearly Beloved around, I will just break down. I found that out, unfortunately, when my friends realized, oh, wait a second, this guy has such a deep connection to Kingdom Hearts. What if we did this? And then I immediately started bawling. It was like an automatic response. I can't even control it. Can't even fight that bad boy. So trust me, Tetsuya Nomura has had much more of an impact on me than I will ever be happy to admit. And on top of that, fun fact, regardless, I'll still be pre-ordering the game if it comes out in 2030. Like, trust me, no matter what, Kingdom Hearts 4 will be purchased by me as long as I walk this earth. So will Kingdom Hearts 5, so will Kingdom Hearts 6, so will Kingdom Hearts 7, 8, 9, 10, 47. Like, it doesn't matter. Kingdom Hearts will always be getting a pre-order from me. That's a lie. I didn't buy Melody of Memory. That's just because I'm not a rhythm game kind of guy. And I still haven't played any of the mobile games. Mainly because I don't like gacha games. But still, regardless, any major Kingdom Hearts thing will get my buy. It's just too late at this point. I'm in too deep. But I'm just wondering why the radio silence. Is it really because you just don't have anything prepared? Like, I'm not saying spoil the whole game on us like you did for KH3. Like, legitimately, I wouldn't even... If a person wanted to experience the story of KH3 but didn't want to buy the game, even though the game's really cheap now, like, it's crazy, once again, 4 years old, but the game's super cheap now. But if I wanted to have them experience the general Kingdom Hearts 3 experience, I tell them watch the trailers, because you can get the whole story and all of its important beats from the trailers, as long as you know everything from the previous lore. You don't need to actually play the game itself. The trailer spoils so much, so I'm not asking for that. I'm asking for something. Information. Tell us, give us a general release year. You don't even have to give me a release date. I understand a release date's hard to do. Even if it's hypothetically been in development since 2019, which I don't think is unreasonable. What? When did the PS5 come out? Let me double check. So the PlayStation 5 came out in November 12th of 2020. Presumably, game devs have had the console for, I think, arguably a year before. Would it be too like outrageous in order to have games ready for the console upon its release? But let's say Tetsuya Nomura and the team didn't start working on KH4 until November 12th, 2020. They didn't have the console. They weren't going to start working on it. They didn't want to have like a dual system thing. Like, you know how Record of Ragnarok, you know how God of War Ragnarok is released on both PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and that's how some people believe the game's a little bit held back by the PS4. Yeah, I don't think they want something like that either. So let's just say they didn't start development until they themselves got their hands on one of the 5 PlayStation 5s that existed on November 12th of 2020, because you can never get that thing upon its release. But let's say they got one of them November 12th, 2020. That gives them still what? So November 12th, 2021 would be 1 year. November 12th, 2022 would be 2 years. So that still gives them 2.5 years of development if they only got it that year. And we're nearly a whole year later. Well, okay, not nearly. We're in the 4th month of 2023, and November is the 11th month. But still, they've had time to let it be cooking for a little bit. And they did go out of their way to announce it on the anniversary of the game. The 20th anniversary, and Kingdom Hearts 3 has been out for 4 years, and then some change. I don't see why hold back on this one. Like, unless, especially considering Nomura even admitted, in terms of world count, the games are just going to keep getting smaller. You're never going to get a KH1 or a KH2 world roster ever again, because the worlds are so much bigger now. They're so much more complicated. We're never going to get worlds of that size and scale again. So there's going to be less worlds to be developed. There's going to be presumably less story, if I had to guess. Like, notably, we haven't had a story that flushes itself out over the course of the game decently well since Kingdom Hearts 1. Like, think about it. Be real. Be real with me. Other than, like, short visits from the organization, when have we gotten a story that actually has, like, paced itself well throughout Disney Worlds? Other than KH1. So, like, it's been a while anyway. So a lot of the story is going to be backloaded, if I had to presume anything, even for the KH1 of the new era that is KH4. So at least if I had to just take a guess, the complications of development cannot be that deep. Like, it cannot be this overly complicated. Like, And maybe I'm just being impatient, right? Like, it's only been a year. Come on, tough guy. You waited how many years for Cage 3 since its announcement? 6? You weren't complaining all that much online. I was complaining very much to my friends. I bet if you were to ask any of my friends, they'd be like, oh, do not get me started on Pencil and his Cage 3 obsession. I could have sworn that man was going to build the game himself if it didn't come out soon enough. And that is true. But with that being the case, it's entirely possible that I am just overreacting. Like, yeah, sure. It's been a year of radio silence and nothing but Nomura and his vague hints. But what am I really expecting from Kingdom Hearts? Like, do I think that we're going to get a consistent update schedule? Knowledge of when the game is going to come out? Am I asking for too much? Very likely. Like, yeah. Obviously, I'm just a fan of the series. A fan of the series who's loved the series for longer than I haven't loved the series. Crazy to think about it. I've loved the series and known about it longer than I haven't at this point, which is weird to think about. But with that being the case, I suppose it's fine. We can just wait in the void for eternity. Because eventually the game will come out, right? It's not like it's an impossibility. It's not like the game will never release. But it's just, I don't know, the silence worries me. Because, like, I would hope from the bottom of my heart that Nomura learned his lesson from 3. Because notably, 3 was an exception. It wasn't the rule. Like, once again, if you look at the release gaps between every Kingdom Hearts installment, minor and major, they were not that large. They were not that large. And to be fair, the games were a lot easier to make back then, presumably. But the upgrade from Cage 2 to Cage 1 is massive, and it only took 3 years. Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories came out, what? 2 years after 1? And then a year later, Cage 2 released. Then admittedly, we did have like a 4-year wait gap between... Well, that's for the Japanese audience. For the American audience, we had a 3-year wait gap between 2 and 358. But even then, you had Coded. But then again, Coded was a mobile game at first, so I can't necessarily give Coded anything. But Recoded came out relatively quickly after that, and Coded only released a year after Dream Drop. Like, not Dream Drop. Cage Coded only, Recoded, I mean, came out a year after 358 Days Over 2 in 2010. And then, even Birth by Sleep came out only a year after Recoded. And then there was a 2-year gap between BBS and Dream Drop. The 6 years is not a rule. Like, 3 years was the highest rule gap that we had before in terms of KH release dates. It was 3 that set the precedent of, like, yeah, we're going to wait a whole half a decade. And some change. We're going to wait a half a decade and a fifth of half a decade in order to make sure that you just really want it. So I'm hoping Nomura isn't, like, trying to rebuild a pattern, because I think the general silence of the community is a testament to that. Like, I don't know, like, what is really in the community right now in terms of discussion, other than, like, did anyone smell that? Yeah, just a lack of Cage 4 content, a lack of theorizing, because there's nothing to theorize about. Yeah, we're just, where is it? Like, it's right, it's just 4 years. This is longer than any gap that we've had between installments, except for 3. And who knows? Maybe the game just takes 6 years to develop now. Maybe they needed to take extra time to wait until the PS5 dropped before they could start developing. Maybe Nomura is just still super duper busy. Maybe Nomura just doesn't know what to write anymore. I like, as much as I love Kingdom Hearts, and as much as I'm glad to see my favorite characters grow more and more and more, and have more and more time, and more cutscenes, and more story and suffering, like, as much and as happy as I am for more of that, I don't know. I wonder if Nomura knows what he's writing anymore. Like, and this is not even an insult to him. Even if I can agree with the general consensus that, for the most part, Nomura writes by the seat of his pants, like, legitimately just by the best that he can do for the most part. Bro has still made a story and a whole bunch of characters that I really, really love. But maybe it should have ended at 3. Maybe we didn't need a sequel saga. But since we have it, I'm just going to wonder where it is. Because in my opinion, there's no reason for the wait. There's no reason for the radio silence. There's no reason that this should take 15 years. Like, hold on, let me double check something. Never mind. This game is not coming out forever. Oh, Lord. This game, no wonder. Okay, I take it back. This game's never coming out. I mean, I might as well just delete this whole video. I just Googled when the Unreal Engine 5 came out. That thing, oh, wait a minute. Wait a second. Hold on, I lied. I mean, it's not good. It's not good. But I'm getting conflicting answers now looking at it. Because I see the latest generation Unreal Engine 5 was launched in April 2022. But at the same time, developer video footage trailer. Unreal Engine 5 is the latest version of Epic Games creation platform. Several upcoming games are confirmed to utilize it. Epic Games, December 9th, 2021. So if it was... Here's the thing. If Unreal Engine 5 really didn't drop until April 2022, then yeah, we're not getting the game for another 5 years. Like, legitimately, I don't think we are. Because that means they have to build it from scratch. And apparently Nomura even said in an interview that the trailer that we got was still in 4. It wasn't in 5. Meaning that they're going to have to redo all they already did in 5. Meaning we're not seeing this game forever. Ugh. That explains why there's nothing. If they really, if it came out in 2022, I see like December 9th, 2021, but even still, that's only 4 months off from the release of the teaser trailer. So they would have to report and remake everything in 5 unless they can transfer the assets over, which I'm not sure they can do. So I highly think that we may just never see this game. I mean, it explains the radio silence now. There's just nothing that you can release because nothing's ready. Because it would have only been a year in development at this point, and they're not releasing the game in a year. Not a game of the quality and size that KH4 likely needs to be after KH3. We're not seeing this game until like 2026 at the earliest. I just made myself sad. I just generally made myself sad. Wow. I don't know. I was hoping, like, unironically, that randomly today there'd be another trailer that would drop, like, a release year or something. But now I understand why they just said Magic in the Making. They didn't give a release year or anything, because they weren't even working in the proper engine yet, most likely. Man, that depresses me. Man, that's sad. I don't like that. Man. So were they just sitting on their well, I guess they weren't just twiddling their thumbs. They were making Missing Link. They were making Union Cross's finale. They were making Dark Road, but like, man, I would have taken another game in 4, or in the Unreal Engine 4. I would have taken that. Now I gotta wait. I was literally planning that in this video with like a wonderful like flip of the script. Like, yeah, sure, I'm worried, I'm concerned, I am not exactly happy with the state of affairs, as it were, but hypothetically, this is all okay because the game will release sooner than we think, because there's no way that Nomura would announce it early if he didn't have a plan ready. But no, now that I realize that the Unreal Engine 5 is so unique in that, or so new in that Nomura, and he's been working on a whole bunch of other stuff, and he has Final 77 Remake. I can't put a positive spin on this now. I understand why there's been radio silence, because the game's not done. It's nowhere near done. It's a year in development at this point. And I don't think they're going to release it in a year. I'm not sure. Hold on, let me double check something. Maybe I can give myself some false hope. I can't find out, or quickly find out, the year when they switched engines from the Kingdom shader to Unreal Engine 4. So presumably, if Dark Timeline is what we're in, we are not going to see Kingdom Hearts 4 for at best, if we give it a 3-year turnaround time. We're not seeing that bad boy till 2025, which is just massive unfort. It explains why they're only really talking up Missing Link, because Missing Link is in Unreal 4. There's no doubt about that. Missing Link is in Unreal 4. I think that's the max a phone could even run. So Missing Link is in Unreal 4. So that'll be our little filler game. It'll be our Chain of Memories, our recoded, obviously, or original code and stuff like that. That saddens me though. At first, I came into this discussion with a hope that things would be better, only to realize that things may have gotten a whole lot worse. But I'm still going to keep a positive edge, right? Once again, no matter what, no matter how long it takes, no matter how many days I spend slapping Kingdom Hearts 4 to the search bar, looking for some hope, some news, a scrap, a taste of information, no matter how many of the YouTube channels I've subbed to get a hint, a whiff, a taste, a lick of Kingdom Hearts 4, it's going to get my money. It's going to get my time. Whether it releases sometime later this year, impossible. Sometime next year, also probably impossible. Sometime the year after that, maybe, or it releases in 2050. It shall have my money. It shall take my time. Because I love Kingdom Hearts. And I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. However, that's what I think. Please, what you guys think in the comment section down below. Do you think there's hope for Kingdom Hearts 4? Do you think I'm being a doomist at this point, and that no, it's under development, just that Nomura learned his lesson, and that he's not gonna drop like the whole plot and trailers before the game releases? Or are you a doomer like me and like, oh well, the game's not coming out till 2087? Let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to notifications so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a page down below. Each one as one, get them on down month. Exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is Dago the Pencil, writing off.